I am an associate professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at the University of South Florida. This fall 2014 semester, I'm teaching a class that my colleague James Mahelsick normally teaches. He's on sabbatical. The class is called Sustainable Development Engineering, co-listed in public health as Water Pollution and Treatment. And it really gears students up for working in developing world contexts on projects dealing with water and sanitation and many other issues that come along with working in communities that are trying to become more sustainable. And one of the things that the students definitely do is learn how to work with construction materials, in particular for sanitation or water projects. So, for example, they would normally learn how to do a pit latrine, because many of the communities they work in when they go overseas, safe sanitation is definitely one of the things that our students are trained to assist with. And the students I'm talking about in particular are in a Masters International program, which is a partnership we have with the Peace Corps, where students come to USF, do a one-year master's in environmental engineering, and then are also going into the Peace Corps, where they're going to serve as volunteers for 2 years in the field of water and sanitation. They then return to campus, spend a semester, and they write up the thesis based on some component of the work that they do when they're overseas. And they're advised by faculty at USF when they're overseas on a research topic related to the field of environmental engineering, but that is very based on the place where they're doing the work. So when I took the class over, I thought it may be a really good thing to do, because what we're trying to emphasize in civil and environmental engineering is this idea of community engagement. And so this is something that when we write our grant proposals, we say that our students are going to get a lot of this training when they go into the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps does this throughout with the first 3 months of their training. I think Christy could confirm when you do interview her. And so we thought, let's find a local partner who had a need where our students could get some type of construction training. And it just so happened that I had met someone randomly in a line in the airport, and that person had been involved in the Burmese garden project here in Tampa, and took me on a tour. He's a landscaper, Carl Johnson, and so I took him on a tour to show him some of our projects in East Tampa looking at rain gardens, and then he brought me here to show me the Burmese garden project. And when I saw the site, I was like, well, this looks great. This could be something that our class could work on. And then as I spoke to the instructors in the class about this idea of doing a local project with a partner, they all thought it was a great idea. And at the time, one of the graduate instructors, Christine Prouty, came down with me in July to meet the partners on the farm, because they wanted a greenhouse, and we thought, well, that's a possibility of actually bringing in some of the construction approaches, and really needed to use concrete as a part of one of the deliverables for the class. And when we came and talked to Pastor Joe and Father B and Mr. Johnson, we sort of decided, maybe we'll go ahead and look at this greenhouse project. We spoke to the other instructors for the class, and these are all students who were in the Peace Corps program and are back at USF as graduate students doing their PhDs now. So they're coming with tons of experience from Mexico, Panama, Uganda, and one student worked in Mali, and then we had another student who wasn't a Peace Corps volunteer, but who actually does a lot of overseas work and had worked with an NGO before coming to USF, and his work was in Honduras. And so they all agreed that, let's explore this a little further. And so we met with some of the Burmese farmers over at the botanical gardens at USF to actually see what these greenhouses look like, and because the project partners were also looking at which greenhouse to buy, and we are no experts on greenhouses. We've never actually done it before, so we went to the botanical gardens, and Nathan Manser, one of the instructors, went a little early got some information from the gardener. So when we came, we were able to see the different designs. Christy was able to communicate with the Burmese to get some idea of what kind of flooring they wanted. You know, we were like, oh, we're going to put concrete flooring just so we could pour concrete. And that, you know, it turns out that that's not going to happen. Not only they don't want it, but it's also from the gardener's experience there, it's not comfortable if you're going to be standing there for a long time. The project actually, for their first year of funding, they needed to buy the greenhouse before the funding ran out, and so they went ahead and bought one, and with the understanding that our class would help build it. So the classes here are doing a greenhouse. For the rest of the semester, many of the topics they learn about deal with water supply, with sanitation, irrigation type stuff. There's lots of different topics that we cover, and what we've done is look at, for each instructor, you know, what are some project ideas that the students could work on that could take advantage of the instructors, these are the PhD students, their research area. And then what are the projects that we could work on at the farm that align with things that we're teaching in the class. And there's some needs from the farm because we're trying to build this partnership now. Dr. Roberta Baer in anthropology has been working a lot with me in terms of sending me information. She sits on the board. And so just trying to train not just me, but the engineers and the other students involved in the class in terms of when we're doing this project, we always have to keep in mind the project partners and how we share information and how we also get information from them so that we're actually doing a project where we're all sort of getting something, working on something together, and that there's clear communication. And that is something that we have to be careful of, especially since there's many different cultures and languages involved here. And our students in the class are really just here for one semester. But some of the projects that were identified, for example, through the garden project in a recent trip by a restaurant, was that the cattails that you see in the stormwater, in the fish ponds, they actually want to be able to harvest the cattail for cattail flour to sell in this really high-end restaurant, because they're going to look at promoting food that is only grown in Florida. And so if they can use cattail flour to make muffins, how great is that? So for that, we sort of look at YouTube videos, and the restaurant has sent the YouTube videos, you know, and we wrote it up as a project if somebody wants to do it. And sure, there is some water components to it because it deals with the cattail has to grow in a wetland type area, and so how do you harvest it? We were thinking of those ponds, turning them back into fish ponds. But if they can actually produce the cattail and get the cattail flour, and that could be something that is profitable, and that's something that the garden people want to explore, then why not? And so we could bring anything into an engineering project. So one student is really excited about it, and we've talked about looking at ways in which you can actually harvest and maybe dry the root using some type of solar dryer or something like that. There's another need for a chicken coop, and so another group is working on that because the farm wants to expand and have about 300 chickens. But that ties in to some of the other projects we have looking at biodigesters, which Nathan Manser works on, and he'd written a proposal up for that for the students. So there's a lot of synergy. A lot of people are interested in rainwater harvesting. Of course, it's a water class, so they want to do the water stuff, and we're trying to limit the number of students in a group. But one of the things we're looking at for the greenhouse that we're building, could we harvest rainwater from the building close by so that it's used in the greenhouse? The farm is also on its own water supply, and something that they had expressed when we first came to visit, that was this idea of a drip irrigation system. So another student project is going to look into that. So the student projects have research components that not only require literature reviews and so on, but also looking at the experts within the Tampa Bay area and coming up with a design and a proposal for the next step for the garden project here. Or the next step for the project, for example, that Colleen Naughton has dealing with composting in Mali, which is her research site. So we're really trying to match the student work with ongoing projects or projects that have need where there's going to be some type of sustained interaction when the class is finished.
Trotz.